The balcony kiss with Blazer isn't the most important part of this scene. It's actually the distraction. Because what's really happening here is the moment Robert finally lets someone see the human that's been hiding behind the mask, and most players completely miss it. So today we're breaking down the real meaning of the balcony scene and why it marks a turning point for both Robert and Blonde Blazer. When Robert gets kicked out of the bar and Blazer takes him on a nightcap, there's this tiny transition moment. A moment that's so quiet and easy to overlook, but it ends up setting the emotional foundation for everything that happens on the billboard. Before the balcony scene even begins, the game is already telling us exactly what kind of relationship these two are building. And it starts with something incredibly simple, and that being the way Blazer carries him. She holds Robert side by side, shoulder to shoulder, flying with him almost as an equal. And on the surface, that doesn't seem like a big deal. But if you look at episode 2 after you've completed the game, or looking back in retrospect, if you remember how Phenomenon carried her, the contrast jumps out immediately. Phenomenon lifts her like he's performing for an audience or showing her off as a prize instead of just holding her with him. Blazer doesn't do that with Robert. There's no flair, no posing, no spectacle. And it's just two people flying next to each other as equals. And that small staging choice tells you exactly what Blazer actually wants in someone. Not a pedestal, but a partner. Somebody who stands beside her, who matches her energy, who treats her like an equal. That detail, that soft, almost invisible little detail, is the breadcrumb trail that leads us straight into the balcony moment. As they fly, the score shifts into the song It's Easier If We Fly, which has a warm guitar, a subtle climbing bass line, a sense of motion and anticipation. It's not super frantic or heroic, rather it's tender, it's personal, and it's the sound of a moment that's about to happen. Before they land on the billboard, the camera gives us a brief, reflective beat of Robert looking around at the city and then back at Blazer. And for the first time in the story, he's not Mecha Man, he's not in the armor, there's no mask between him and the rest of the world. He's just Robert. And that sudden absence of the suit matters way more than people realize, because the first thing he says once they're on the billboard is some sort of thank you. Depending on your dialogue choice, he might say, "Thanks for saving me," or something along the lines of, "I really needed this," but the emotional meaning, no matter your choice, is the same. Robert is finally letting someone see him for the first time, and he's acknowledging his own vulnerability. He's letting someone see him without the persona, without the legacy, and without the weight of Mecha Man holding him up. This is the very beginning of him learning to be a person again. And then Blazer says something small but disarming. She mentions that she knows his full name, Robert Robertson, and at first it sounds very playful, but once he starts explaining how he got the name, the whole tone shifts in the scene. His grandfather was Mecha Man, then his father, and now him, all with the same name, all wearing the same suit, and both men before him died in it. And you can feel that even under the jokes that Robert has always believed he was just the next link in that chain, and that he was supposed to die in that suit too. That his identity was inherited, not chosen, and that his fate was sewn into his name before he even put the helmet on. Blazer absorbs the weight, the fatalism, the exhaustion, and the sense of inherent doom, and instead of stepping away, she does the exact opposite. She decides to move closer, and not just literally, though she does close the physical gap between them, she moves closer emotionally too. She tells him that she's not ready to share her own origin story, but she wants him to ask later again. And that small, simple invitation is a way of saying, "I want to trust you, but I just need time." And that leads us to the emotional heart of the scene. Blazer brings her hand up towards his face, but she doesn't just take off the mask. She pauses, she hesitates, and she waits. She asks without words, "Can I see the real you?" And Robert gives her this tiny, almost imperceptible nod. That's consent, that's vulnerability. That's the moment that he decides to let someone see the man underneath the symbol and the mask. When she removes the mask, the whole scene shifts. The lighting softens into warm oranges and pinks, colors that evoke intimacy, safety, and gentleness. The music thins into something quiet and romantic, just enough to color the moment without overwhelming it. She then cups his cheek with her hand and she studies his face. She gives him a small, genuine smile and says, "We can work with this." This is where the tension reaches its peak. If you choose to kiss her, Robert moves in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She doesn't. She stays with him. But after the kiss, she leans back and apologizes because she's flustered and unsure. On the other hand, if you choose not to kiss her, she's still holding his cheek, and instead of leaning in, they both awkwardly lean back at the same time. It's still tender, still uncertain, and it's definitely still vulnerable. Interestingly, in both pass kiss or no kiss, the emotional truth is still identical. This isn't a perfect romance moment. This isn't a passion or wish fulfillment moment, but this is two emotionally guarded people trying to open up and not quite knowing how to. The kiss is optional, but the vulnerability is not. That was the moment where both of them started letting their walls down, even if they fully didn't understand the intimacy that came with it. After that quiet tension with the awkwardness, the closeness, the scene doesn't cut away, it just breathes. The atmosphere shifts from emotional intensity to something a little steadier, something forward-looking, and the shift matters because it reframes everything that just happened. The moment isn't about whether Robert kissed Blazer or not, it's about what comes next after that. Blazer gently pulls the conversation towards something practical, like SDN, but the way she talks about it isn't distant or formal. She frames it in terms of him and what he has to offer, what he can still do, and why he still matters. She tells him that there's a position open as a dispatcher for someone who guides younger, inexperienced heroes and helps them make decisions, keeps them safe. And underneath her explanation is this unspoken truth. That being, Robert is more than the Mecha Man suit. He still has value outside of that legacy. He has experience that isn't tied to the armor, and he has something left to give. For a man who genuinely believed his only purpose was to die the same way the Mecha Man before him did, that's a massive thing to hear. You can feel it land, subtly but decisively. Robert didn't expect to have a future, but Blazer hands him one anyway. And then comes the slip. Blazer then starts to say that's why Trackstar thought of you. And it's very quick, but it reveals everything. That she's been trying to keep things professional, trying to put on her official hero mask, but her real feelings slipped through anyway. She was also the one who pushed for him, and she also believes in him, and she also wanted him on the team. And it's not just that one line, it's a pattern throughout the back half of this scene. Blazer keeps trying to sound like she's on duty. She straightens her tone, adjusts her posture, frames things like a formal SDN pitch, but every time she slips, her voice softens, her phrasing becomes very personal. She looks at him with genuine investment, not like a recruiter, but by someone who actually cares about him. It's one of the most subtle, character-defining beats of the entire sequence. After the quick mini tutorial, she closes the scene on the line that quietly defines their entire dynamic going forward. I'm not done saving you. It's playful and sincere. It's a thesis, a promise, and a recognition of how many times she'll pull him back from the edge as the story that follows goes on, both physically, emotionally, and psychologically. Then something small but incredibly meaningful happens. Robert looks genuinely happy. It's not a big comic smile, it's not a dramatic tone shift, but it's just a softness, a hint of relief, a spark of something that's been missing from him in the game up to this point. For the first time, Robert sees a version of his life that doesn't end in the suit. A version where someone values him, where someone wants him around, where someone is choosing him and not the persona he inherited. And even though it's technically in the next scene, that moment keeps echoing. In the back of his empty apartment, he watches a Blazer interview and then tells his dog Beef, "There's a lady who wants to help us." It's simple, but it's the clearest sign that everything on that billboard, every moment of vulnerability, every slip in Blazer's composure, every word of encouragement actually reached him. The balcony scene isn't just a catalyst, but it's the first time Robert lets himself imagine a future worth living in. And that's what makes this balcony scene so much bigger than just a kiss. It's the moment where both characters drop their masks, literally and emotionally, just long enough to see who the other person actually is. Blazer sees a man who deserves a future, and Robert sees someone who chooses him for who he is and not the name that he's inherited. And that shared vulnerability becomes the foundation of the rest of their arcs throughout the game. And that wraps up the video there. If you guys have your own favorite scene, please drop it in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next scene analysis.